Imagine a moment where the galaxy holds its breath. Deep beneath the rust-covered deserts of Mars, inside a vault older than the Imperium itself, the Adeptus Mechanicus uncovers something they were never meant to find. A structure that predates humanity, predates the warp storms, predates even the rise of the ancient empires. At first, the tech priests believe it is just another relic, another fragment of forgotten technology lost in the dust of 10 million years. But as they scan its crystalline surface, the readings begin to break their instruments. Not because the artifact is dangerous, but because the machines cannot understand what they are looking at. The vault hums with a resonance no human-forged lexicon can translate. This is not Necron, not Eldar, not Chaos. This is something older, something capable of rewriting the rules of existence itself. The Mechanicus has a weakness that every faction in the galaxy knows too well, an obsession with discovering technology that existed before they were born. Curiosity, however, is rarely harmless. Driven by the promise of unlocking the ultimate source code of reality, the Magi of Mars begin an unprecedented excavation. As they dig deeper, they uncover a colossal stasis chamber made from a material that bends light as though reality itself recoils from it. Inside lies a dormant being, reptilian, towering and surrounded by geometric halos of frozen energy. The highest-ranking tech priests gather, their mechadendrites twitching with a mixture of fear and excitement. They whisper among themselves, "If this is truly one of the old ones, then the power to reshape the galaxy lies in our hands." That single thought becomes the spark that ignites everything that follows. The resurrection begins as a scientific operation, but quickly transforms into something far more dangerous. The chamber is connected to a massive array of energy conduits extending across Mars's underground lattice. Every reactor, every plasma generator, every hidden power core begins rerouting energy toward the vault. Lights across the red planet flicker. Entire forged cities shut down. But the tech priests push forward, convinced they are seconds away from unlocking knowledge that could surpass every advancement since the dark age of technology. As the final surge of power floods the vault, the stasis field shatters like glass, releasing a shockwave that knocks entire cohorts to the ground. The being inside opens its eyes, vertical slits glowing with an intelligence that has seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. The awakening Old One does not speak in words. Instead, its mind radiates structured patterns of thought, mathematical, elegant, and terrifying. The tech priests suddenly realize the being does not view them as equals, or even as intruders. It views them as variables, organic components in a cosmic equation it once tried to solve. In an instant, it begins reading their neural implants, absorbing their language, learning their history, and witnessing every catastrophic decision humanity has ever made. The tech priests attempt communication, but each signal is treated as primitive noise. Then, with a single gesture, the Old One reconstructs a damaged servitor unit using a technology no Mechanicus forge has ever witnessed. The implication is clear. This being can manipulate matter on a molecular scale, bending science into a form indistinguishable from miracles. The news escapes Mars faster than the tech priests can contain it. Across the galaxy, ancient races feel the disturbance. The Eldar sense the reactivation of an intelligence they believed lost forever. Their Farseers panic, declaring this awakening a threat on par with the darkest catastrophes of their history. The Necrons, however, respond with absolute fury. The Old Ones were their original enemies, the ones who created the races that eventually opposed them in the war in heaven. To them, this resurrection is not an archaeological event. It is a declaration of war. Tomb worlds begin stirring from their slumber, their systems shifting into emergency combat protocols. What the Ad-Mech sees as a scientific breakthrough, The Necrons recognize as the return of an existential enemy. Meanwhile, the Old One begins reshaping Mars itself. Its presence stabilizes the local noosphere, rewriting sections of the digital landscape as if it were soft clay. Tech priests watch with both awe and terror as dormant machines begin activating, speaking in languages the Mechanicus cannot decode. Entire foundries rebuild themselves, altering their architecture to a smoother, more organic form. It becomes evident that the Old One is not simply exploring, it is preparing. But for what? A council of the highest-ranking fabricators convene, arguing whether to contain, obey, bargain with, or try to control the resurrected being. None of them realize that their debates are irrelevant. The Old One has already calculated every outcome, every probability, and every potential threat to its objective. Its goal soon becomes horrifyingly clear. The Old One has detected something, a flaw in the fabric of reality, a decay that has spread across the galaxy since the ancient wars. To it, the warp is a contamination, an unstable dimension poisoning all life forms that evolved after the fall of the ancient empires. The Old One decides that the only solution is to correct the galaxy by severing its connection to the warp entirely. At first, this sounds beneficial. No warp storms, no daemons, no psychic madness. But the consequences are catastrophic. Warp-based travel collapses. Millions of void ships become stranded in dead space. Astropaths lose their voices. Entire sectors go silent. The galaxy begins to fracture into isolated islands of civilization. The Imperium realizes too late what has happened. Communication lines disappear. Reinforcements cannot arrive. The Mechanicus itself is divided between those who still worship the resurrected entity's genius and those who now fear the consequences of its correction protocols. The Old One continues its work, building massive null field generators across Mars. Each one expands the zone where warp energy cannot exist. Ships attempting to leave the planet either fail to launch or collapse mid-flight. A silent panic spreads. The Adeptus Astartes mobilize, but without warp jumps, their fleets cannot reach Mars in time. Isolated and desperate, they can only watch the situation unfold through fragments of astropathic echoes. The Necrons arrive first. Their anti-warp technology allows them to move through the growing null zones without issue. What begins as a reconnaissance strike quickly escalates into a full planetary assault. For the first time in aeons, the galaxy witnesses a battle between the ancient rivals, Necrons versus Old One constructs. The Ad-Mech stands caught in the middle, unable to decide whether they are defending their greatest discovery or helping destroy the creature they resurrected. The Old One counters with reality-shifting weaponry, bending energy into shapes the Necrons cannot easily predict. Mars becomes a war zone of impossible geometries and collapsing dimensions. But even in its revived form, the Old One is weakened. It was never meant to awaken in a galaxy this corrupted, this fractured, this unstable. The Necrons press harder, deploying entire legions equipped with weapons tuned specifically to disrupt Old One physiology. As they advance, the resurrected being begins altering the battlefield, opening spatial folds, redirecting beams, creating fractal shields. Yet every maneuver drains more of its strength. The Mechanicus watches the conflict with a dawning realization. They have not awakened a savior or a destroyer. They have awakened a remnant, an echo of an era whose rules no longer apply. In its final moments, the Old One makes one last attempt to rewrite local reality. It tries to stabilize the region, to impose order on the collapsing noosphere, to preserve the knowledge it has gathered. The Necrons unleash a concentrated dimensional anchor, pinning the being in place and stripping it of its ability to manipulate matter. With one final surge, the Old One releases a pulse of information across the galaxy, a broadcast containing fragments of ancient technology, warnings of forgotten threats, and blueprints of machines beyond human imagination. Then the Necrons deliver the finishing blow, and the resurrected being collapses into shimmering dust. The aftermath is unlike anything the Mechanicus has ever faced. Mars is scarred but transformed. Entire districts have been reshaped by alien architecture. The null zones slowly dissipate, restoring warp-based travel, but the galaxy remembers the terror of isolation all too clearly. The Mechanicus retrieves the fragments left behind by the Old One, but even these fragments defy proper understanding. Some Magi argue that the Old One's final broadcast contains the key to eliminating the warp forever, a potential path to a galaxy free from corruption. Others warn that attempting to decode the signal could repeat the same mistake that began this catastrophe. The Eldar remain shaken, knowing that the return of even a single Old One nearly destabilized the entire network of psychic currents they rely on. They begin reinforcing their own defenses, preparing for the possibility that more ancient beings may still be hidden somewhere in the void. The Necrons quietly celebrate a rare victory, but they too worry about one troubling detail: the broadcast. If the Mechanicus succeeds in decoding the ancient data, humanity could one day rise to a technological level that even the Necrons might fear. As for the Imperium, it treats the incident with a mixture of denial and dread. The official records will claim the entire event was a minor Mechanicus malfunction, but whispers spread across the inquisitorial networks, a being older than empires, nearly capable of severing the warp itself, awakened and was destroyed before it could remake the galaxy. Some believe this resurrection was a warning. Others believe it was a test, but the most unsettling theory is the simplest. If one Old One survived, then more may still be waiting, and somewhere deep beneath a forgotten world, beneath layers of collapsed civilizations and dead stars, another stasis chamber flickers with ancient energy. Its occupant senses what happened on Mars, not with anger, not with fear, but with anticipation. The galaxy has changed since the war in heaven. The children of the Old Ones are scattered. Their enemies are weakened, and the warp bleeds more instability with each passing millennium. The next resurrection will end